So you're sitting there, eating a sandwich, and suddenly you realize trees don't need sunlight? Like, how does that even work? Are they just sitting in the dark, waiting for someone to turn on a lamp? Wait, but trees are plants, right? And plants need photosynthesis. That's the whole sunlight makes sugar thing. So how do they do it without the sun? Maybe they're not using sunlight the way we think. Maybe they're using something else entirely. Like maybe they're just really good at stealing light from other plants. Or maybe they're using some kind of secret underground power source. Like a tree version of a battery, but with more roots and less wires. But seriously, it's not like they're just sitting in the dark. They're doing something. They're surviving. Maybe they're just better at it than we are. Maybe they're the original nocturnal survivors. So what exactly are we talking about? Like, are we talking about trees in a cave or something? Wait, no, the question is about trees growing without sunlight. So we're not talking about trees in a cave, we're talking about trees growing in the dark. Like, really dark. Why, how do trees even survive without sunlight? I mean, we all know plants need sunlight to make food. But if there's no sun, how do they make food? It's like asking how a toaster can make toast without electricity. Wait, no, that's not the same thing. So, the real question is, how do trees make food without sunlight? Because without sunlight, they can't do photosynthesis, so they have to use some other way to get energy. And that's where things get interesting. Like, really interesting. So maybe we're talking about special kinds of trees that live in really dark places. Like, maybe underground or in a cave. But wait, trees can't really live underground, unless they're in a special kind of forest. Wait, what's a forest again? So maybe we're talking about trees that don't need sunlight. Like, maybe they use some other kind of energy. Or maybe they're not trees at all. Wait, but the question says trees. So, I guess we're talking about trees that can live without sunlight. But now, so, the real question is, how do trees grow without sunlight? Like, how do they make food? Because without sunlight, they can't do photosynthesis. So they must be using some other way. Like, maybe they're not plants at all. Wait, but they're trees. So, this is confusing, but we'll get to the bottom of it. So, the answer is probably not what you think. Because trees need sunlight to live. Unless they're in a special place. Or they're not trees. But the question says trees. So, we're going to have to figure this out. And I'm excited to find out. So yeah, trees growing without sunlight sounds like a sci-fi movie. But it's basically the same thing as you trying to eat cereal without milk. You can do it, but it's not ideal. And honestly, you're kind of doing the same thing when you're in a room with no windows and you're still managing to live. Imagine if you had to survive on just water and air. No snacks, no sunlight. That's what trees do when they're in the shade. They're like the cool, mysterious cousin who never goes to the beach but still manages to be chill. But here's the thing. Even if you're not getting sunlight, you still need it. Trees are like humans in a way. They need light for energy, but if they can't get it, they just get creative. Like when you're stuck in an elevator and you start counting the cracks in the ceiling. And here's where it gets wild. Some trees actually grow better without direct sunlight. They're like the introverts of the plant world. They don't need the spotlight. They just need a little glow from the edges. It's like when you're at a party and you're the one who just wants to read a book in the corner. So why should you care? Because the trees you see every day are doing this crazy, underground thing to survive. And if you're a fan of nature, or just a regular human, it's like watching a movie where the main character is the underdog. You're rooting for them, even if you don't know it. So, let me fast forward 400 million years. Trees were just starting to get their act together, like a shy kid in a classroom. No sunlight? They had to find another way to make food. Wait, how did they do it? Oh right, they made their own light. Sort of all. They used a process called chemosynthesis, like a tree that's also a glow stick. But hold on, chemosynthesis isn't really making light. It's more like a tree that's basically a solar panel, but instead of sunlight, it uses chemicals from the ground. It's like a battery-powered plant. So, it wasn't just trees doing this. Other weird creatures were also using these chemicals. It was like a whole ecosystem of weirdos surviving without the sun. But then, one day, the sun decided to be more friendly. Trees said, hey, we can do this with sunlight too. And the whole thing got a lot brighter. So, trees grow without sunlight? Wait, that's like asking how a plant grows without water. You can't do it, right? But here's the twist. Some trees actually don't need sunlight because they live in the dark. Like a cave, but with trees. These trees are called understory trees. They live in the forest, where the tall trees block the sun. So they've evolved to grow in the shade. It's like being the kid in the back of the classroom who still gets all the answers right. But wait, how do they get their energy? Oh, they make their own food. Like a superhero, but with chlorophyll. Even in the dark, they do it. Except they're not really doing it. Wait, that's confusing. Let me think. Alright, they can still do photosynthesis, but they're not using sunlight. They use a different kind of light, like from bioluminescent fungi or other plants. It's like a glow stick party in the forest. Everyone's glowing, but no one's using the sun. So, trees can grow without sunlight because they're super adapted, like a ninja in the dark. They make their own food, even if it's not from the sun. Just like how I can eat a sandwich without a fridge, but I'm not a tree. So, trees grow without sunlight? Wait, isn't that like asking how a sunflower grows without the sun? I mean, they're called sunflowers for a reason, right? But some trees do it anyway, and that's basically the setup. First, there's gotta be a seed. Like, a little packet of potential. Maybe it's buried, maybe it's on the ground. But it's just waiting for the right conditions to start the whole growth process. Now, even though the tree might not get sunlight directly, it's still in a place where sunlight can reach the soil. Like, if it's in a forest, the sunlight is filtering through the leaves above, so the seedling starts growing. And even though it's not getting direct sunlight, it's still getting enough light to do the whole photosynthesis thing, which is basically how plants make their own food. But here's the thing, if there's no sunlight at all, even the best tree can't grow. So this whole process is only possible in places where there's some kind of light, even if it's just a little. Okay, so once the tree has all these helpers, the next step is actually making the food. But wait, how does it do that without sunlight? Well, it uses something called photosynthesis, but it's not like plant in a sunny garden. It's more like a tiny factory inside the leaves, powered by different kind of energy. But here's the catch, even though there's no sunlight, the tree still needs some kind of power. So it uses a chemical called ATP, which it makes from water and minerals from the soil, and then uses that to power the factory inside its leaves. So the tree is basically like a solar panel, but instead of waiting for the sun, it's using stored energy from the soil to power the process. It's like charging your phone with a wall outlet instead of waiting for sunlight to hit it. And then, once the factory starts working, it makes sugar from carbon dioxide and water, which is like the tree's version of making cookies from flour and sugar. But instead of cookies, it's making food for the whole tree. So even though the tree isn't in the sun, it's still making food the same way, just using a different energy source. It's like a dark room with a light bulb, and the bulb is powered by the wall instead of the sun. That's how it works. Step 2. Okay, so trees can grow without sunlight? Wait, how do they even start? They need some light to begin with, right? But once they're big, they can go dark. Like a kid who's already got their own room and doesn't need a babysitter anymore. So here's the twist. Trees can actually use other light sources, like moonlight or even light from a lamp. It's not the same as sunlight, but it's enough to keep the process going. Sort of like how I can still watch TV in the dark, just not as clearly. But wait, how does the tree even know where the light is? Oh, right. They have these little sensors called photoreceptors, like the eyes of a plant. They're not super fancy, but they do the job. Kinda like how I can find my phone in the dark by feeling around. Quick word from our sponsor. If this sounds like something you'd enjoy, take a look at the Apple AirPods 2nd generation. There's a link and a QR code on screen right now, and in the description below. Alright, back to it. And if there's no light at all, the tree just goes into survival mode. It slows down, conserves energy, and waits for the light to come back. Like me when I'm stuck in a dark room and just start counting sheep. So yeah, trees are like super smart plants. They can switch light sources, use what's available, and even survive in the dark. Just like I can still function without my favorite snack. It's all about adapting, baby. Okay, so the sun isn't actually the main fuel for trees. They can make their own food through this process called photosynthesis, but that only happens when they're in the light. If they're in the dark, they basically have to rely on what they've stored. But here's the twist. Even in the dark, trees can still do a little bit of survival magic. They use a process called respiration, which is like breathing, but for plants. They take in air and release carbon dioxide, kind of like how you breathe in oxygen and out CO2. And here's the real kicker. Some trees can actually live in the dark for a while. They've evolved to survive in really shady spots, like under a thick forest canopy. They're like the plant version of a couch potato, chilling in the dark. But even the darkest trees need a little light. If they're stuck in complete darkness for too long, they start to starve. It's like trying to live off a single battery for a whole month. Eventually, you're gonna run out. So yeah, trees can't really live without any light. They just have some fancy tricks to survive when the sun isn't shining. But in the end, they still need that sunlight to really thrive and grow big and strong. So imagine your tree is like a kid who only eats chips. It's not healthy, but it's still growing. You know, like a chip-eating kid who somehow gets taller. But wait, trees don't actually need sunlight. They use something called photosynthesis, which is basically the tree's version of a solar panel, but way cooler. But here's the kicker. Even though they don't need sunlight, they still need it to make food. It's like how you need food to grow, but you can also eat chips. So trees are like chip-eating kids who somehow still get tall. It's weird, but it works. And that's how they grow without sunlight. Okay, so here's the thing, trees don't need sunlight to grow, but they still need something from it. Like how you need air to breathe, but you don't need it to be sunny outside. They just use sunlight as a kind of cheat code for making food. But wait, trees can't make their own food without sunlight. So they have to rely on this process called photosynthesis. It's like a party trick where they use sunlight to turn water and air into sugar and oxygen. They're basically food scientists with a green filter. And here's the part that sounds like a sci-fi movie. Trees can even communicate with each other through their roots. It's like they're on a secret chat app, sharing nutrients and warnings. Imagine if your plants could text you about the weather. But how do they do that without sunlight? Well, they use a process called mycorrhizal networking. It's like a bunch of fungi on the internet, and the trees are the users. They trade stuff and share information through these underground cables. So, even though they don't need sunlight directly, they're still using it as a kind of energy source. It's like the sun is their power outlet, and they're just using it to make their own food. No solar panels needed, just a few leaves and a whole lot of science. Okay, so the first myth is that trees grow without sunlight. That's like saying you can build a house without any bricks. Trees need sunlight to make food, just like you need food to live. No sunlight, no energy, no tree. But wait, some trees grow in the dark, like the ones in the forest. No, those trees are still getting sunlight. They just have a lot of other trees around them. It's like trying to eat a sandwich in a room with no light. You still need the sandwich. So the idea that trees can grow without sunlight is just a misunderstanding. It's like saying you can run a race without ever moving your legs. Trees need sunlight to make food, and that's how they grow. No light, no food, no growth. But here's the thing, some trees can survive in low light, like a couch potato. They just don't grow as fast. So it's not that they don't need sunlight, they just need less of it. Like a slow cooker, not a microwave. So the myth is busted. Trees can't grow without sunlight. They need it to make their food. It's like trying to live without oxygen. Impossible. So next time someone says trees don't need sunlight, just say no way, not even a little bit. So, I heard someone say trees can grow without sunlight because they're shade lovers. Well, that's like saying you can live in a cave and still get a tan. Trees need sunlight to make food, just like we need food to live. Without it, they're basically a plant with a sad face and no energy. But wait, some trees do live in the shade, like the ones in a forest. They're not lazy, they're just smart. They've adapted to use what little light there is, like a superhero with a tiny flashlight. But even they need some sun to make sugar, not just survive. Another way to think about it, if trees didn't need sunlight, we'd have trees growing in our bedrooms. But instead, we have plants in our windows. So yeah, sunlight is basically the tree's version of a Netflix subscription. You can't skip it. So, myth number 2 is busted. Trees do need sunlight. Even the ones in the shade are still using it. Next time you see a tree, give it a hug and a light bulb. Or at least a sunbeam. So you're probably thinking, wait, trees don't need sunlight? That's like saying you don't need to eat? No, that's not how it works. But here's the kicker, you're breathing the same air they're using to make their food. And here's the real kicker, when you open a window, you're helping trees breathe. It's like giving them a little breath of fresh air, even if you don't realize it. You're not just cooling off, you're part of the process. Even your phone uses the same air. When you charge it, you're not just giving it power, you're giving it a little piece of the atmosphere that trees need to make their food. It's kind of a weird, invisible loop. So next time you're outside, take a breath and think about the tree next to you. You're not just taking in air, you're feeling a whole ecosystem. It's like being part of a big, green family. And if you're still confused, just remember, you're breathing, trees are growing, and somehow, it's all connected. It's like the universe has a weird, green version of a recycling bin. So imagine a tree that's stuck in a cave, no sunlight, no windows, just dirt and rocks. It's like a tree in a video game that forgot to add the sun. But here's the kicker, some trees can actually grow in total darkness. Not by magic, but by a trick called chemosynthesis, like a tree that eats rocks and makes its own food. No, it's not eating rocks. It's using chemicals in the rocks to make energy. It's like if your body could make food out of battery acid, but way more chill. These trees are usually found near hot springs or volcanic vents, where the earth is basically giving them a free buffet of minerals and heat. It's wild how nature can be so weird and awesome at the same time. Like, who knew trees could be like, I don't need the sun, I'll just eat rocks and make my own lunch. So, the tallest tree ever measured was in California, and it's like a tree that's been standing there for 1,000 years, just chilling in the shade. It's like a tree that's been there so long. It's basically a tree that's been there since the dinosaurs were still around. But how does it even grow without sunlight? Well, it's not like it's totally in the dark, it's just in a really deep forest, like a tree that's been hiding in the woods for a really long time. It's like a tree that's been living in the shadows, but still managing to make it work. Scientists say these trees use a special kind of light, like a tree that's tuned into the moonlight or something. It's like they're using a different kind of light, like a tree that's been trained to read in the dark, but with chlorophyll. But here's the thing, even though they don't get much sunlight, they still manage to grow like a tree that's like, I don't need your light. I got my own way of doing things. It's like a tree that's so good at photosynthesis. It's basically like a photosynthesis superhero. And the best part, they're still growing, even though they're in the shade. It's like a tree that's been standing there for 1,000 years, but still has the energy to keep growing like a tree that's like, I'm not done yet, I've got a long way to go. Okay, so trees try their best, but sometimes things go south. Like, imagine your plants just decided to go on a hunger strike. No sunlight, no energy, it's basically a walking zombie with a leafy head. Then, the leaves start to yellow like they're trying to tell you, hey, I'm not feeling well. And if it's not fixed fast, the whole tree could just stop working. Like a car with a dead battery, but with roots. Quick word from our sponsor. If this sounds like something you enjoy, take a look at the Amazon Echo Dot Diff, the smart speaker. There's a link and a QR code on screen right now, and in the description below. Alright, back to it. And here's the kicker. Without sunlight, the tree can't make its own food. So it's like a kid who forgets to bring snacks to school. Eventually, they get hungry, then sad, then really sad. So, in short, trees need sunlight to survive. If they don't get it, they're basically stuck in a never-ending snack strike. And trust me, that's not a good look for a plant. Which is why we should all be nice to trees. They're basically the green version of a human who forgot to bring their lunch. Treat them right, and they'll grow strong. If not, well, you've got a sad little plant on your hands. Before you go, if you enjoyed this, please give it a like, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And tell us in the comments what you'd like us to make next. We read every single one. Thank you so much for watching.